In the years after the Second World War, there was a ruthless execution method deployed inside of Czechoslovakia, which appeared brutal, and this was witnessed by thousands of people. Pole hanging was deployed inside of the country and in Hungary to bring the lives of many war criminals and collaborators to an end. But despite it being used for many high-profile executions, there was a young woman who was executed on the pole in a shocking public execution in front of thousands. Herta Kasperova was condemned on the 14th of September 1946, but she was seen in the eyes of many who witnessed her execution that day as a shocking and disturbing collaborator, but she was just also a normal girl. But why was she executed? To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. Herta Kasperova was born in June 1923, and she had a rather humble life to begin with. She was also disabled and walked with a limp in her right leg, and she suffered a lot of bullying at school. Her family spoke Czech and German, but when Hitler seized control of the Sudetenland region of Czechoslovakia, Herta's family were given preferential treatment as she was seen as a Czech German, and she was given Reich citizenship. She also changed her name to Kasper for it to sound more German, but in 1940 she worked inside of an office of the German criminal police, the Kripo, in a town called Jihlava. She worked as an interpreter during the war years for the German police, and she was involved in translating many people's words who were being interrogated by the Nazi authorities and the Gestapo. They treated people incredibly roughly, and many were tortured and executed, but Herta Kasperova's work was seen as vital for the Nazis. She was overtly collaborating with the enemies of her people, but she then went further. Now, we mentioned earlier that she suffered bullying at school. She happened to mention this to the German authorities, and she also accused those who had tormented her of breaking into her house. With this, she identified 11 men and boys who had allegedly stolen items. This is believed to have been false. Some of those were her former tormentors, and these were then dragged out to a courtyard of the town hall in her hometown, and these 11 were then executed by a firing squad. She had vengefully collaborated with the enemies, and she had her former bullies executed. They had committed no crimes at all. But she then later went to Austria, but in February 1946, Herta Kasperova was arrested, and she was sent back to Czechoslovakia. She stated at her trial that, "I know that I caused the death of several people. I acted out of revenge," and she was herself then sentenced to death. She was seen as a terrible Nazi collaborator, and for this she would be executed by pole hanging. On the 13th of September 1946, Herta Kasperova was brought out to the 3-metre pole for her execution. She was screaming and kicking for her life, and even fell to her knees as she was shaking so much. Guards carried her to the execution post, and she wore a short dress to her execution, and was crying and screaming, even as the ropes were passed around the structure. The executioner and his assistant worked quickly to bring her life to an end. They fastened a leather strap around her chest, suspending her in the air, and they passed the ropes around the pulleys at the top and bottom of the execution post. They then placed a noose around her neck and got her ready. In front of the large crowd, the chest sling was released, and Herta Kasperova plunged down. The executioner, using the heel of his hand, tried to force her head to one side to dislocate her neck, and she then began to twitch and move. Her head began to also shake, showing her neck had not been correctly dislocated, and she took many minutes to be confirmed dead. After this, Herta Kasperova's body was placed inside of a cheap coffin, and some put flowers inside the coffin for her. Her remains were then buried in a local cemetery, but in the town of Tres that day, people had brought tickets to secure the best position to see Herta's execution and death. It was almost like a medieval carnival, but for many, she was seen as a shocking collaborator whose tales and lies had led to the execution of 11 men who were ruthlessly shot for no crime, except the fact that the vengeful Herta Kasperova wanted them dead, as they had throughout her childhood tormented her. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.